Welcome friends, I'm back with part 2 of my dog commission. What I've done, I haven't painted on it since the last video, but I took it out and I set it in my family room on the fireplace. I set the photo up next to it, and then I continued to really study it and make notes of things I wanted to adjust. That's usually what I do. So I've got a lot of changes, a whole list of things that we're going to work on. Before we start, I'm going to take a minute here. I heard, if you'll check on the first video that we posted, the beginning of this, some really nice comments there from Monica, who is the person that commissioned me to do this. Gives you a little background about the dog. Very nice. So she wrote me an email. She's very pleased at this point, and she had some questions for me, and I thought it might be simpler just to address those here on the video, and maybe some, there could be some things that you yourself might be interested in. So she is learning to paint. Her interest is in painting dogs, so that's part of the reason I'm doing this commission online, so she can watch. She was interested in that. So here I'll go over her questions and try to answer them the best I can. Okay, how do you plan your paints for a painting? Do you pull out your standard paints and mix them as you paint, or do you plan ahead and have all your paints mixed with all the tonal values? I have the same palette every time. I mention that over and over. I work with 2 blues, 2 yellows, 2 reds, and a white, and then I have transparent red oxide and Indian yellow on here. And I did mention last night that I did put a little black on here this time, which I do sometimes for pets, but I never would use straight out of the tube. So it helps to use a limited palette if you're learning to mix color. I would do that, and I would do it for a long, long time till you learn to mix color. There are occasions where I do pre-mix for a painting. I did not do that for this. I typically don't for a pet. When I find myself doing that, like a while back, just recently, I painted a pair of pink toe shoes, ballet shoes, and they were kind of an unusual peachy pink. So I took my time before I started and I pre-mixed some colors. And if I do pre-mix, generally what I'll do, if I will at least make 3 values. And then when you have those piles here, you can intermix those one into the other 2 to create some values in between. But I don't think it really matters. Do whatever works for you. There are a lot of people that pre-mix, and it's fun. It slows down the process, and sometimes when you've got everything pre-mixed and ready to go, you're just kind of painting in your areas of correct value and color. So I hope that answers that. Are you nervous when you paint? Are you thinking whether or not people will like your painting while painting? Normally I'm thinking about the painting. It isn't often that this is probably the first time that I've done one and known that, they do watch them sometimes, like I have painted and I've sent them the link, but I don't know. I don't think I think that much about it. I hope not. I'd rather not get distracted by it. It is a little risky because it might not go well. I probably wouldn't post it if it was a total disaster, because that's the advantage of not going live. I'm filming, then I'm posting. So yeah, if it was really bad, you wouldn't see it. But sometimes, when I'm sitting right here with my face in it, there are mistakes. There are some things last night we're going to adjust tonight. So yeah, hopefully you don't scare anybody. They've just got to trust that in the end that you'll get it. It's part of the process too. And a lot of people do not understand the process of painting because it can look really messy a long way through, and that's just part of it. So number 3, how would you characterize your style of painting? I wanted to look for some books online, but can't find much when looking by impressionistic painting with broken colors. I call myself an impressionist. I do paint, think of the word. I'm a realist. I mean, I'm painting, when I paint an object, hopefully it reads correct and it reads like the object. But my style is looser and softer and soft edges. So I'm not a photorealist. Again, I pretty much consider myself an impressionist, but yet, if you know, a lot of times you're right, they were blocks of broken color. That was more the way they painted. I'm trying to think if that's helpful to you, but yeah, I'm definitely not a photorealist. But again, I want my things to read correctly. And I don't want them to read like a photograph. I want them to feel like a painting. That's why edges are important. I want soft edges. Okay, how do you keep track of all your tonal values? Well, I have to say a lot of this comes from years and years of painting. I've been painting really pretty much full-time for about the last 15 years. A lot of it's just instinct, instinctively. You do a lot of it, and the more you paint, the better you'll get, and the quicker you'll get good. But it isn't easy. But it will come easier for you. You will lay it down, and your eye will catch that it's not the correct value. And a lot of times you have to get it all up there to see. I mean, it's all, again, relationships. It's one thing against the other, one value against the other, one color against the other. So you'll have to put it up there, and immediately you'll know when you get a good eye for it. It's too light, it's too dark. Always ask yourself, is it too light, is it too dark, is it too warm, is it too cool? Those are the things you ask yourself. Have you ever painted something you didn't like? Oh my goodness, yes. Over and over and over. I paint, a lot of times, I'm just painting to be painting, I paint with, some groups, and sometimes maybe you're not really in the mood to paint, but you're painting anyway. So, oh yeah, all the time I paint things I don't care for. Sometimes I paint over them. Sometimes I throw them away. I say it's an artist's right to dispose of their art. So, oh my goodness, everybody paints things they don't like. So that's just part of it. How many years? Again, I answered that earlier. I've been, like I said, painting about 15 years full time. Prior to learning how to do fine art, I did folk art years ago when folk art was a thing, painted and sold a lot of folk art, took a lot of pride in those hard edges back then, which now I try not to do that. Let's see, were you a good drawer as a child? I did draw. I remember for a Christmas gift one year my mother gave me an easel, and I wish she'd have gave me paints, but she gave me a sketch pad and pencils, and I drew, not enough. I mean, you just can't draw enough. I've been drawing a lot lately. I've been drawing faces a lot lately. I mentioned this before. I'm on TikTok some, and I draw my followers, little sketches of my followers, and yeah, just great practice for me, and I give them to them. So I hope that answers your questions. Don't get discouraged. It's just a process. It's hard, and I say that over and over. If it wasn't so hard, I mean, I think that's part of what keeps us coming back to it. It is hard. Very challenging, and you will never meet an artist that every time they do a painting that it goes like they expect it to and they want it to. It just doesn't. The most skilled artist and experienced artists will tell you they wipe paintings off, and it's tough. It's very tough. But the more you do, the easier and more instinctively you'll paint, and maybe not faster. I happen to be a fast painter. People are always curious how long a painting takes. I should say, 15 years and 3 hours or something, right? Because I paint a lot, and I think that makes me faster. I'm just fast. I'm a fast person. I walk fast. My husband's always saying, "Where are you running? Where are you running to?" when I go through the house. So I do everything fast. I'm just that kind of person. But I paint with people that, we paint 4 hours, and sometimes you can't really tell what they've done. I just can't paint like that. I get paint on my brush and I lay it someplace. I'm just fast. But again, do it a lot, and you'll get faster. Do quick studies. If you've ever heard of that, I've mentioned that before. Set your timer for an hour, set up a simple still life, paint it quick, put it aside, and do another one. Don't keep picking at it, and do a lot of those, and you'll get quicker, and sometimes you get some nice soft paintings that way. All right, I hope that was helpful to you. We'll get to painting here. Let me bring up our photo here, our reference photo. I'll show it to you again. There's our guy. I love this stately pose, don't you? Apparently he laid like that a lot. She sent me some photos along with a note earlier, and these were taken by a professional, but the ones she sent me earlier were some that she had taken, and I guess he just liked to lay that way. So there's one there. There was another one. Yeah, here. Sweet, huh? All right. Again, that's the photo we're working from. So again, what I did was I made notes, my sloppy handwriting, and I tried to analyze every area to see where I needed to make changes. I'll read them over to you, and then we're going to address them. Of course, we're going to repaint the background. He needs some shadowed area. He needs to be grounded. You know, he's feel, you know, I don't want him to feel like he's floating there. Of course, he needs toenails. I've got ears here. We might look at his ears again. I have little tiny things like above the left eye. I need to bring up the black area just a little bit because, see, I'm looking at this shape right here when I'm painting. Is that shape the right size? You know, that's a little tiny thing, but that black needs to come up a little bit. The lighter area here needs to come up a little bit. And there's a little bit of detail here in the eye socket where we've got to put that in. Above this light area, there's a little tiny line here. We'll get right in there and make that. Got to go over the chest hair, the left cheek. I'll have to look at that again. I think I thought that this should be brought in just a tiny bit. This foot needs adjusted. It needs to come down some, so that's another one. And the paw in the front, I've got to re-look at the shape of that again too. Right now it kind of feels like it's coming like this, whereas it's coming out and down. So we need to look at this negative space in here. Might need to adjust that a little bit. So those are the things I have on my list. So we'll start with his face and mix up some of this colors that we worked with last night. The dark color was ultramarine and transparent red, which makes pretty much a black, and then I even threw a little of black in there. Okay, and then the orange color, which it varies as you look around. Transparent red oxide was the bones of that, and then a little yellow. And I did mix up, if you recall, I did mix up a puddle of orange out of cad red light and yellow. I just kind of like having that on there, and we can throw a little bit of that in if we need to. And this orange mixture that I made with the yellow and the transparent red oxide, you need to look at the value close. You need to look and decide if it needs to be cooler. And if it needs to be cooler, which is more blue, that's what you do. You add a little more blue into it to cool it off. That's what your complements do. Get a color wheel, look across the color wheel. When you want to grade down a color, you just pull from the color on the opposite side of the color wheel. All right, we'll start. I'm not going to do the background, even though that's the first thing, or the shadows. We're going to wait on all that. We're going to start working on the face here first. So let me grab a brush. Okay. This I felt needed to come up a little bit. And this is, you know, of course, being oil, it's not dry, so we're working wet into wet, but you know, it's set up some overnight, so. I'm trying to get that lighter. Okay, that's better. Okay, let's get a little tiny brush and we'll put this bit of detail in that I see in the eye. Oh good, you can see a little bit of this. See right here, I did remember to turn the camera sideways tonight. I'm bad about that. I have it vertical for some things and I think it's nicer when it's sideways, you get more of a view. All right, so it looks to be, it's similar to the color of this, maybe a little cooler. Sound like he was an awful sweet dog. Well, we sure get attached to our pets, don't we? I tell you, in my life, I've lost pets that, I hate to say that, but bothered me more than, you know, you live with them. So, you know, you come home and they're here to greet you, and you lose a pet, sometimes you hate to come in the house. There's a lot of good wildlife painters, a lot of, I don't know if you go on Pinterest, but a lot of really good artists that paint pets on there. I think some of it is you need to figure out what style you like, you know, how you want to paint them. Lots of ways to paint them. Some people are very, very loose, and you know, you figure out how you want to paint them, and then people will decide if they like your style or not. So I'm trying to, you know, look at every color and shape here as we move around. And like I said, we'll probably paint the background in before, like these little hairs and stuff. We'll probably have to come back and work on them once the background's painted in. I'm just suggesting some of them. Yeah, and more important than the color is the value of something. I'm sure you've heard that. I have a friend that paints portrait house commissions, and you have to like her style to use her. She's all about color, and they're not realistic. But again, her values have to be right. Their paintings are very bright and colorful. I think we'll switch to our liner brush. It's not little like the wand, kind of in between. See if we can get some of these hairs in. We had a Brittany years ago. If you know what that is, she was a hunting dog. She hunted with my husband, and her coloring, if you know what a Brittany is, a lot of times you'll see them and they're orange and white. She was what was called liver and roan. She was multicolored speckle and brown, and one of my daughter's friends was over one time and said, she looks like cookies and cream ice cream. I thought that was pretty cute. But yeah, she was different. Neurotic. She loved my husband. If he got out of her sight, she just went crazy looking for him. If he went out of town, she never quit looking for him. I think dogs typically bond more to one person, and he was her person. When she got older, she didn't hear very well, and she'd fall asleep, and he'd just get up. Maybe he'd get up and go to the bathroom, and she'd wake up and didn't see him, and she'd just freak out looking for him. But in her younger days, she was a good hunter. He took her hunting, and Brittany's are cute. They lock up on prey and get real stiff and point at them, and it's just instinct for them, you know, it's just in them. But she loved it. He'd bring her home, and she'd lay there and pick stickers out of her fur. All right, I'm looking for, here we go, paper towels. You know, we're looking at pretty small detail now. This is a teeny tiny little brush, which I don't use a lot, but let's look at our list again here. You know, and I may think tonight I've got him pretty close, but then I'll do the same thing I did earlier today. I'll be setting him up and really looking at him hard. And let's look at the placement of that back foot. I think what we'll do is we'll just wipe it out. look how he's made here. You come down, here's the black part. We come down and the foot comes up about right there. Okay, let's look at it again. Up here. Okay, I'm grabbing my pencil. I'm going to look very closely at this. Okay, we'll look at this. This comes over, and there's a place there. And we're going to bring this foot over a little bit. Comes over. Yeah, I'm going to bring that foot over a little bit. Kind of a shadow shape there where the leg overlaps. Got a house commission coming up next. I got the deposit, I'm just waiting on photos. I do everything. I like everything, I don't know. All right, let's look at some toenails. see these are difficult to see too because of this dark background. Something to think about when you're, backgrounds are important, and it can be exciting, like with a still life, to do a dark background and have things lost in the background. Just depends on what you want. To reproducing though, like I'm doing, it makes it a little challenging to see the detail, Let's look at our list again. Okay, let's go look at this foot in the back. And as we paint the background in, we will probably, good chance we'll lose these toenails and we'll be putting them back in, but yeah, I think I'm going to have to redo them because I'm adjusting the shape of this. Ahead of myself a little bit. And would this paw have to be here? I don't know. It's going to have to, be grounded for it to, and again, a couple toenails, but I may just wait till we get the background in. Now I want this paw to feel like it's coming down like it is, so my thought is darker value in this area here. We have very subtle shifts in value right now. I think we're going to mix up something darker, not dark, but darker than this to go behind him, and then keep it lighter underneath him. In the photo, that's the effect we've got. And typically the flat surfaces catch more light, and they would be lighter if it's the same fabric. All right, let's think about background, shadows, toenails, just above the left eye, chest hair, left cheek, back foot, paw in front. Okay, so we've addressed most of the things on my list. So let's play around, and I'm going to mix up some background color. And I'm going to go with, last night, if you recall, I had blue and orange. So we're going to do that again. And I'm going to lighten it, but not as light as what we've got there. Let's see what this looks like. I want to get darker, and of course not as dark as it was in the photo. I'd like some of this to show through though, this color that's on here, so kind of a mottled background, so And again, when we have it where we want it, we'll be painting the edges. So you can frame it or not, Monica, that way. 8 by 10 is a standard size. I mention that a lot. Easy size to, you can buy the frames at Hobby Lobby or any place. And an 8 by 10 is a nice size because you get a nice frame and it really can look great. It's not dinky, you know, when you frame it right. If you're doing portraits and you do a background color, it can be nice to actually introduce a background color into the portrait and some of the portrait color into the background, and you know, back and forth. We want soft edges though. You don't want him to feel like a cutout. Okay, I think that's kind of nice. Right now I'm going to leave this lighter. We're going to think about that. I did just finish a dog commission where she was on a pink blanket, and they wanted that, so I did put that in. But you got to think about it. I mean, you don't want it to be distracting too. You know, you want your eye going right there. I might grab my little rubber palette knife. Bear with me here. You may have seen me use this if you watch me paint. This is by Catalyst by Princeton, and it's a very flexible rubber. It's like a palette knife. I like it. You can blend right on the canvas with it. Going slightly darker even in the light area around, kind of vignetting, you know, pull your eye toward the middle. Let's go look at that foot in the back. We'll see how this goes, because this is not detail that we have in the photo, so. But we've got to make him feel, you know, grounded, so. I'm not sure about these shadows yet. Like I said, we're just trying stuff to make him feel grounded. And a lot of times, like if you paint it in between the toes, like, you know, like this, it can help the appearance of it if you come back and paint on each side of it. You know, that way it maybe doesn't feel so hard. I'm going to look at some of these other photos here. You know, lighting's everything, and you see different things in different light, you know, with everything. Been going almost an hour again. I think we're going to call it quits for tonight. because he's mostly there, but I'm going to, you know, decide if I need to do some final tweaks, and we probably won't film any more of it because he's far enough along. I mean, you can, but I'm going to, you know, I'm going to look at him really hard again and decide what else he needs, and before I send the final image to Monica, and but he's very close, I think. Let's bring up the photo again. This area here is a little wider in my painting than in the photo, but I'll tell you it doesn't matter, because in a lot of these photos, like in this one, see the gap between? So it just depends on how his ears are, whether they're relaxed or, so I don't think that's anything wrong with that at all. All right, let me show him to you. Like I said, I may or may not, I won't come on and film again here, I mean, and I think he's getting pretty close. Putting just a little richer color in him here and there, because I think it's attractive. Sometimes when I do dogs, you know, I put blues in them. You don't see it there, but it's interesting, and I have an all black dog sometimes, and I'll throw warms and cools in them. Again, the main thing is the value. Yeah, I've got to work on the shadow more. We've shadowed him some, as you can see. And of course the edges have to be painted. Yeah, with him laying on this ottoman, I definitely wanted, you know, 3 different values, I think, so you get the sense of the background and then the foreground. I think those are nice neutrals. All right, we'll get up and show him to you. I appreciate you joining me, and I always say it, please like and subscribe if you haven't. Got some glare from the window there behind, but there he is. All right, thanks again for joining me, and probably, like I say, won't be a part 3 to this, not for the public anyway. I have to decide whether I feel like I need to film more. I think it's just very subtle things now, subtle changes that we need to make. So, all right, thanks again, and watch for me next time. Have a wonderful evening.